extended metaphors, a metaphor that is continued and developed over several lines of writing throughout an entire poem. And it can also be done in a speech or any other form of writing, but to extend the metaphors, to use that one metaphor, but to then have a bunch of examples that refer to that initial metaphor. So here again we have element 1, we have element 2, and they are going to be similar, so we'll say they're almost equal, if you will. And let's take a look at a classic example by one of my favorite authors, the one and only Billy Shakespeare. Okay, he has an extremely well-known, famous poem where he says, "All the world's a stage. It's the 7 ages of man. And all the men and women are merely players. They have their exits and their entrances, and one man in his time plays many parts, his acts being 7 ages." So, all the world's a stage, and therefore the world's being compared to the stage. Okay, and what that really means is that our lives, okay, in the world are being compared to theater. So life being compared to theater. And let's see all the examples that sort of fall into life and theater. Well, we have the world and the stage, okay? We have all the men and women. They are merely, it's a metaphor, players. And players means actors. So men and women are actors. Men and women obviously relating to life, and actors relating to the theater. Okay? They have their exits, all right? And an exit out of life would be death. So this is sort of an implied metaphor here, okay? And their entrances, and that would be birth, okay? And exits and entrances both apply to theater, but life and death, well, or birth and death apply to life. Okay? And one man in his time plays many parts, which means, again, a man in his life has these parts that he or she plays, which is the different stages: childhood, adulthood, old age, and so forth. And the parts means different characters. And that, of course, applies to theater. His acts being 7 ages. And so now the acts, again, applies to theater because a play has several acts, and the ages apply to the different stages of life. Okay? And there you have a wonderful, wonderful example of an extended metaphor. And what's been known, or what's been called the 7 ages of man is, I forget which play it's from, but it is one of my favorites. And hopefully we'll get a chance to read that entire work in class. Okay, personification. And this, again, is a type of metaphor. It's a special kind of metaphor in which a human quality is given to something that is not human. So, again, there's our graphic. It's used over and over again for this comparison, element 1 with element 2. And what's the similar quality? Well, the computer whispers its secret. And the first thing you know is that element 1 is always a person. You're going to always, in a personification, give it some inanimate object, something that's not human, a human quality. So element 1 will always be a person. And that makes personification sort of easy to spot and to understand. And it's also easy to remember because the word person is in the word personification. So that's you should use that just to remember it. It's pretty easy if you think about it in those terms. So element 1 will always be a person, and in this case, the person is being compared to a computer. All right? The computer whispers its secret, and obviously a computer can't whisper, but a person can. And a person keeps secrets. Okay, a computer just holds information. And so the similar quality is that they both are whispering. Mickey Mouse. I put this up here because I like to always use the example that a huge multi-billion-dollar industry was created off of this idea of personification. Walt Disney said, you know what? Let's give a mouse, a non-human thing, some human qualities. And you can see in all of these faces over here, these are not faces that a mouse would make. These are all human faces and human emotions. Winking, laughing, smiling, happiness, surprise, fear. All of these faces in the mice are human qualities. And as we all know, in Florida, it's probably one of the largest, if not the largest industry in Florida, is Disney World. And all based initially off personification. Now it's time to discuss hyperbole. It's a lot of fun. Hyperbole is an exaggeration or an overstatement. For example, I'm so hungry I could eat a horse. And obviously no one's actually eating a horse, but that tells a person, that exaggeration lets people know, the degree to which I'm not just hungry. I'm so hungry I could eat a horse. Okay, so let's get going with dinner here because I'm starving. I had a ton of homework. My book bag weighed literally a ton because the homework was so much, and that's obviously you couldn't lift a ton. So another exaggeration. And my favorite, perhaps, I've told you a million times, don't exaggerate, which in and of itself is an exaggeration, and I always like that one because it's ironic. But irony is for a different day. We'll discuss irony in a different mini lesson, but when we get there, you'll see I love irony. So I've told you a million times, don't exaggerate, and obviously no one said something a million times. So, hyperbole, it's an exaggeration or overstatement. And what is one of the all-time greatest examples of hyperbole? None other than Superman. That's right, let me show you what I mean. Okay, so he is faster than a speeding bullet. Hyperbole. More powerful than a locomotive. More powerful than a train? Hyperbole. He's able to leap tall buildings in a single bound. So just as Mickey Mouse was created from personification, Superman is literally, it's the essence of hyperbole. Okay? And there it is. Superman. So, my favorite, perhaps, definition of hyperbole was found on this t-shirt, which is, hyperbole is without a doubt the single greatest thing in the history of the universe. Okay? So, that's our mini lesson on figurative language, and I hope you enjoyed it. I leave you with a little example of personification, just to again show you how entertaining it can be. And I look forward to looking at all the figurative language that's used in the literature and pointing it out, and having you pointing it out to me, which is the real idea, in class. So there it is, figurative language.